I've added something to my toolbox. I have more than just Jesus looking after me. I have Baha'u'llah looking after me. I have Muhammad looking after me. I have my ancestors looking and waiting for me. So I'm at peace. I've done a lot of plays. I have a one-woman show called The Glance from God based off of Zora Neale Hurston's play, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And that piece, I traveled all around, won several awards for it. And I write lyrics, I write poetry, I write songs. So down the river, so down the river, or across the ocean, or behind the barn, or deeper south, or to the west, just so down the river. I never made it back, not able to say goodbye or hello to the new baby or I love you, just so down the river. Pulling cotton, nursing babies, even mine, sun up to sundown. Yes, sir, no, sir, master. So down the river. So down the river, joined the army just to get free. Civil War, still no respect for me. My name is Constance, and I live here in Maryland. I am a retired theater and English teacher. I think that God directed my steps. I believe in my heart, He has a plan for each one of us before we even get here on this earth. And His plan was to have my life be not necessarily better, but different. I used to work part-time for this nonprofit organization. I used to type. And he said, you should go to college. Well, my mother only went to 3rd grade. My sister and brother neither graduated from high school. And so nobody even heard the word college in our house. We didn't think about it. And this man said, you're so smart, you should go to college. And I was like, yeah, right. But he really convinced me. He said, I'll help you fill out the application. I'll help your mother get the loan. You need to go. And that's how I went. And so because of that, I was able to leave the environment I was in. And because I was able to leave the environment, I was able to live a different life. I just think that God has a plan. And if we try to second guess Him, we will be miserable. Go where He sends you. Do what He tells you to do. And try to listen for it. And if you think He's not talking to you, all you have to do is look around. Are you clothed? Do you eat? Do you have a roof over your head? All of these things are blessings. When my husband died, I was alone. And when my mother died, I was even more alone. But I had to do something because I had 2 children who had no one but me to count on. So it was very important that they saw me working and trying and praying and never giving up. So that's what I did. I was living in Maryland at the time, so I decided that I would go back and get my master's for teaching. We went all the way up to Emmitsburg in Maryland. It was difficult. I was the only Black student teacher up there in my neighborhood. And Ku Klux Klan was very much alive and well. But I felt protected and safe because of the people that we were around. I grew up as a Christian. I was very involved in my church. Sunday was really important in our family. If you weren't going to church on Sunday, you could do nothing on Saturday. You got to get dressed up. You had your pretty clothes on, and I sang in the church. On Easter, I always got to speak. Everybody knew me, and I knew everybody else. It was warm and inviting and wonderful. I didn't do church so much when I moved to New York and was doing theater and going everywhere for nightclubs. I didn't. But when I was alone after my husband died, well, I tell you, it was a very hard time and a very sad time because I felt alone. And even though I prayed, I went to church, I felt alone. I felt God wasn't there for me, that everybody else was moving forward, that everyone else had more than me, that I was an actress, I was a singer, but I had 2 boys. I couldn't pursue that career. And I didn't understand why God had given me this talent. And I wasn't famous. I didn't have a lot of money. My husband died. And my husband really was my rock. You know, I loved the ground he walked on. But my baby was 9 months old and he died. I didn't understand. It just felt like my life was one of toil and unhappiness. And I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I prayed, and I believe I prayed sincerely. I meant those prayers. But things were very hard. But as I look back, they weren't as hard as I thought they were. I have friends who had it much harder. I had food to eat. I had a roof over my head. I was healthy. My children were healthy. I was so blessed, but I didn't know. I just didn't know. I remember my children's godparents, a white couple, Mr. and Mrs. Lee, same name as I. I remember waking up and there would be bags of grocery on my step. I remember when my mother was ill with cancer and taking care of her, every Sunday, Miss Margaret would come to my house and take my mother out for ice cream. I remember those things, and I look back and say, how dare you think that God wasn't there? You know, you just didn't, he carried you. He put you in his hands and just carried you. I was doing a play, but I had a lot of people at my house. And someone else had run into Barbara who knew me and said, you need to meet this woman, Constance, you need to meet her. And somehow Barbara ended up at my house for something. And we immediately hit it off. I noticed as I got to know her and she would tell her story, I would always be amazed. How is she getting through this? How is she living? How is she not on antidepressants? How is she walking? And how has she raised her children? And every now and then she'd say, I have to go to a fireside. And I was like, well, what is this fireside? She said, well, I'm of the Baha'i faith. And I've learned later that she never, I knew this, she never pushed it. And I never questioned her because I said, okay, this is some kind of cult, I don't want to know. But we continued to be friends. And she said, well, why don't you come one time? I said, I don't think I'm going to be into this, but okay, I'll come just because it's you. And I remember the first time I went to her house at a fireside, I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Are you saying there's no hell? I said to the whole group, And I said, I will not allow you to get me sent to hell because you want to do this thing. And I said, number one, if you're saying that the foundation is that we are all alike, if you're saying that the foundation is that we are all God's children, that we are compelled by Him to love, then why is there a faith called Baha'i? I came home, I told my sons about it, and they basically laughed and said, Mom, be careful. You know, this sounds like a cult to me. But I continued to go. And I know now the reasons the people were so loving and so compassionate and so warm and so different. One of the things that I've learned recently that I absolutely hold as truth and which helped me with the positioning or the understanding is a better word between Jesus and Baha'u'llah. So this flower is going to eventually die. As you can see, some of them are dying already. But next year, it's going to come back. It's not the same flower that dead. This one's gone. But this one comes back, and it's the same kind of flower. So Jesus left, but He said, I will return. Baha'u'llah came. It doesn't mean that Jesus didn't come back. He came as Baha'u'llah. That has been a tremendous piece of understanding for me as I have accepted Baha'u'llah as a part of my life. I had my first fireside here with Dr. Fernand Zapar. Barbara was here, everybody, a lot of people. And he spoke and I sang and it was wonderful. But I didn't become a Baha'i then. I was on a fireside and we were talking and I was talking. And someone said, they started chuckling. And I'm like, why are they laughing? And everyone started. They said, because you are a Baha'i. You just don't know it, but you are a Baha'i. And I went away from that thinking, you really are a Baha'i. I'd been reading his works, learning, not doing everything, but just, I was a Baha'i. This is a continuation. This is not instead of, this is also. Once I was able to make the also connection, it kind of fell in place for me because times are different. You and I, as we grow, we're different. Weak is the person who does not learn from those who've come before. So look at what happened. Jesus' time, if you read the Bible, the time in which He came was perfect from that. When we look at that whole thing of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, we wouldn't think of doing that now. But that was the norm. I always feel like Jesus met people where they were. And so what happens? Baha'u'llah comes along and he meets us where we are. And that's kind of where I've come now, that I was eating all this fruit, but not doing the work, not planting the seed, you see, but I was getting all the benefits. Declaring as a Baha'i is not the same as becoming or being a Baha'i. I think once you declare, I think the next step is becoming. And everybody's becoming takes different tracks and different amounts of time. So I have friends who are in their 80s and 90s saying, I'm still becoming. This whole housing situation that I'm going through now, this is my daughter-in-law's first big home of her own. So to come in as a young girl, you want to do it, but it's mine. In my head, I'm thinking, this is my house. This is where I put this. This is how I use this. But if you are detaching, is that really the important issue? Does it matter, or can you do better by saying, whatever you like is fine, and meaning it? Because all of us are good at smiling and saying a platitude. But can you honestly mean it's okay? And do you honestly want that other person to feel better even than you do, or to feel happy? You know, and that is the part of becoming. So I am a Baha'i, but I'm becoming a Baha'i. And to me, that is even more important. So for many years, though, I blamed a lot of things on white people in this country, not just for what happened, say, to me, but for the life of my family, their ancestors, etc. So racism is a thing that has followed Black people in this country their entire life, whether you be of this generation or generations past. We experience racism now. Baha'u'llah has said, though, that he, the beauty, will cure this, but we are obligated and commanded to love each other. If you love someone, it's not that you don't see the color of their skin, but that it does not matter. And there's a very big difference when we say, I don't see color. Yes, you do. If I come in the room, you know I'm Black. But it should not matter, because inside of this body is blood that runs red. So we are all the same. If you don't love someone because they are a different color or a different religion, then what God do you serve? Because we are all His children. Will you be able to sit and tell God, I like some of the people you made. I don't like them all. My family is not Baha'i. It has taken all I can do not to want to teach them, because I'm a teacher and I've discovered something. But I'm trying to let it come about on their own. And one wonderful thing that has happened, my oldest son in particular, was, Mom, don't do this. This might be a cult. They never said don't go, but they just kind of poo-pooed it, you know. So I've had all this trouble with my eyes. So one of the person in the Baha'i happens to be a wonderful ophthalmologist at Johns Hopkins. And Barbara sent a text and said, you know what, we need to get in touch with Alan because your eyes aren't getting better. I mean, I literally had to wear sunglasses in the house. But we went to see Alan, and when we came in, and I had met Alan at several firesides. I had my grandson with me and my oldest son. We go in the door. Now, this is on a Saturday. So he opens up for me. We go in, and I said, I am so grateful. Well, he said, your family. So they're listening, my son and my grandson, they're not saying anything. He and I hugged. I said, well, I don't know if my insurance is gonna cover. He said, your family, let's go. We're walking away, and my son turns to me, and he says, he's Baha'i, isn't he? And I said, yes. I was so excited. He didn't say anything else, neither did I. Here's what he did know. He knew this was a person who was different than most of the people, or a lot of the people. What made him different? Something. And Baha'i came to his head. At that moment, I decided I'm not pushing this faith. I want them, it may be 20 years from now, but I want them to see my walk different. I think that the first step is belief. And the first thing that all of us have to believe is that no matter what has happened or even is happening, if we are searching for faith, searching for goodness, the answer, I promise you, will come.